Welcome to the D6 Family Ministry Podcast, a place where ideas, principles, and personalities come together to give you a ministry advantage that empowers the church and home.
I don't know anything more important in our society or in the kingdom of God than to help the church, help the family.
Discipleship is not an event, it's a way of life.
And one day it just hit me that discipleship at home was not about doing more. It was about inviting Christ into what we were already doing.
The goal of family ministry is not families sitting on the couch holding hands and singing Kumbaya. The ultimate goal is families that love God, love people, and make disciples of all peoples.
So that's why you're here. You're here to say 1 hour a week, as significant and as awesome as it is, we know that it's not enough and we want to be intentional with every hour.
You're listening to the D6 Podcast. Here are your hosts, Marianne Howard, Ron Hunter, and Josh Wooten.
I am so excited about our guest today. It is none other than Tim Goodyear. Tim is the COO of HomePointe, and he's also a discipleship pastor in Arizona. But fun fact about Tim, he's also a former engineer. And I love how his previous career and his current career all line up by the common denominator of trying to give tools to people and utilize tools to get the job done. And one of our hosts here today is an avid collector of tools and has a pretty impressive workshop at his home in Tennessee. And that is none other than Dr. Ron Hunter. Ron, what are some of your favorite tools or a project you've been working on lately?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, favorite tools, without a doubt, my miter saw is my number one go-to. I built my miter saw and I built a dust collection box around it. When I turn that thing on, it sucks away all the dust, all the power. And I've got this nice Craig backstop where I can measure out wood. I can knock out board after board, exactly the same length. I love that tool, but if you don't have a miter saw, you can still do projects with another type of saw. But, the thing that most people don't understand is sometimes the brilliance is not in the person doing it as much as it is having the right tool. So like you've got a miter saw, you've got a table saw, you can use a hand saw for that matter and accomplish some of the same items. But when it comes to sanding, a belt sander is not the same as a drum sander, especially an orbital drum sander. I was doing a project about a year ago where I was sanding curved wood, and I actually had created this oval out of wood and I needed to sand it. There's no way a belt sander would fit on it. Now I could have hand sanded it, but it would have taken forever. So I went out and purchased an orbital drum sander, and it knocked out the work so easily. And that's what we're going to hear from Tim Goodyear today is that engineering mind says, hey, I have the know-how, but sometimes we have to place the right tool in the parents' hands. And that's where we are as ministry leaders. Don't you guys feel the same way in church? It's the right tool to give them the oomph to get over that hump.
Yes. And I think there is no better time than now. I mean, there's just been a major shift in really, we have such a unique opportunity to leverage the home and equip families to come around generational discipleship principles, which is our heart at D6 Family. And so you guys are going to really enjoy the practicality of this interview. And there is no better time than now to get tools into homes. And so this is a great interview. I'm excited for you guys to hear what our friend Tim has to say. Get ready. You're going to want to have some pen and paper because he is about to give you some practical tools, literal tools, ministry tools to help you equip your families. So with that being said, let's hear what he has to say.
are joined today by Mr. Tim Goodyear. He loves to help leaders explore and implement strategies to drive faith home, and has had the opportunity to partner with over 650 churches of every size and tradition across the country. After 18 years in the corporate world, Tim earned a THM from Dallas Seminary and served in pastoral roles at 2 different churches. He currently serves as the COO of HomePointe and as discipleship pastor of Valley View Bible Church in Paradise Valley, Arizona. Tim and his wife Laura have 2 sons, and I'm so thrilled to get to talk to you today, Tim. Thanks for being here.
It's great to be here with you.
Well, tell us, what is HomePointe?
Yeah, so HomePointe is a ministry that's really designed to equip churches to equip their families to become more intentional. And it originated at Lake Point Church outside of Dallas, Texas. And so it's created by practitioners. It's not just something that's, a bunch of creatives coming up with it. It's actually people who are doing it. And then we make everything that we create available to other churches. They can customize them and use the tools with their families as well.
Awesome. Can you tell a little bit about the theology behind it?
Yeah. There are so many passages we could go to, when we're looking at theology. And so I'll highlight just kind of a couple. One is D6, obviously, Deuteronomy 6. You can't talk about family ministry without talking that one. But it's interesting, when you look at that passage, the language there is, God says to the Israelites that these commandments are to be on your hearts, meaning the parents first. And then the parents are to impress them on their children, right? They're to shape them, form them on their children. Not just teach them, but actually shape and form them. And then the passage goes on to say how. It says, as you lie down, as you get up, as you sit, as you walk along the road. And so it's really throughout the day. And so the first kind of theology that we lean on there is it's the parents' roles to be the ones who are impressing these things on their children's hearts, right? And they're to do that just throughout daily life. And so we want to help churches, help families do that. And then the second one that I've been using here recently is Ephesians chapter 4, verses 11 and 12. Very familiar verses to so many of us. It's the passage where Paul talks about that our role is to equip the saints to do the ministry of work for the building up of the body, right? And as pastors, as ministers, we love to lean on that verse as, hey, it's not my job to do everything, right? It's my job to get other people to do it, to equip them. Right. Well, if we're going to actually equip parents to disciple their kids, then we have to take this verse as part of that. It's not just, volunteers in my ministry. And so, I have a THM, as you mentioned, from Dallas, and so I'm going to give you just a little bit of Greek.
Yes.
Whether you look at the Greek or the English of the word equip, what you're going to find out is there's two aspects to it. There's the teaching. It's literally the mental preparation for a task or a situation. And so it's the teaching. Churches are really good at teaching. That's what we're trained to do. We build our ministries around teaching the word, and we should. But here's the other aspect. It's the tools. It's literally, are we giving people the items that they need to do the task or to face the situation, right? And so I call it the TNT of ministry. You got to have both T's. You got to have the teaching and the tools. But to equip our parents, we have to give them the tools to go home and be disciplers. And so that's what we do. We create those tools, and then, again, churches can take them, customize them, and use them with their families.
Excellent. Let's talk about those churches. What are some of the goals that they should look to accomplish when they decide to partner with HomePointe?
Yeah. Hey, you mentioned I'm a former engineer.
Right.
I wish there was a ministry measurement scale that we could say, hey, we reached 8.5 on family discipleship, right? But there isn't. Measuring ministry is kind of a slippery fish. And we get asked this question a lot of what am I trying to do? How do I measure whether I'm doing it? And what we've come to realize is we're trying to create a culture within our church. And what does culture mean? Culture means a shared values, language, behaviors, expectations of a people group. Doesn't matter whether it's ethnic, nationally, or even a church. There's a culture in your church, right? And so what we want to do is we want to help create that culture, create those shared values, visions, behaviors, expectations. Lots of times churches say, okay, well, great, well, how do I do that, right? I'm going to give you 3 C's. I'm also a pastor, not just an engineer, right? So I'm going to give you 3 C's.
That's right.
We have to cast the vision. And what that means is senior leadership on Sunday mornings has to be talking about this idea of families at home, discipleship at home. This isn't a children's ministry thing. It's not a student ministry thing. this is a church thing. And so we have to cast the vision. And then we have to make some changes. We have to make some changes in our behaviors, in our language, in our expectations. And again, the tools that we create are the kinds of things that we make available are what are going to help families do that. We're going to challenge them to do date nights. We're going to challenge them to do family nights. We're going to challenge them to sit around the dinner table together and have Jesus conversations at the dinner table. So we're actually going to help them change those behaviors and language and expectations. And then the last C is we have to coach them. And that's our job as the church. We have to build this into the rhythms of who we are as a church. We have to periodically come back and remind them. We have to come up with, additional tools next year because they completed the ones last year, right? And so just build it into the rhythm. And so really create that culture. How do you do it? Church has got to cast a vision. They've got to make changes in how they're doing things. And then finally, they've got to coach. This isn't a one and done. This is an ongoing strategy as a church to calling families to be intentional.
How in the world, though, can you convince your ministry leaders to be on board with all of this?
Yeah. Hey, that's a great question. It's interesting. I don't think anybody questions the need for helping families, for ministry to families, strengthening families. I think what happens at the church, like it does a lot of places, is people get a little territorial on their ministry, including senior pastors, right? Get a little territorial. And it's interesting, when we first launched this at Lake Point Church, the student pastor there was a little concerned that this was threatening to him in his role, that this meant now he's not going to have responsibilities in his student ministry. And so what we talk about with our strategies is what we call an integrated strategy. Okay, what does that mean? It really means we're not going to change what we're doing as a church, but we're going to weave this thinking, this language, this culture into what we're already doing. Doesn't matter if it's children's ministry, student ministry, even Sunday morning messaging, right? This has to become part of even Sunday morning messaging. And I think when we can help people get the vision for how can my ministry actually help families, how can my ministry actually put some legs to trying to help families become more intentional at home, then they get on board. And so it's really that idea of this isn't here to compete with or replace what you're doing. This is here to actually help you do what you're trying to accomplish. Again, including senior pastor, we're here to actually put some legs to the messages that you're probably already doing on marriage and parenting and those kinds of things.
Yeah. Have you seen this type of thing become increasingly important over the last year?
Yeah, we really have. A couple quick things on that. Obviously with COVID, last spring, everything kind of shut down. And it was amazing to me to see how many churches, I mean, here we are, we've got families at home, and I get there's a lot of dynamics with that. But we've got families at home, and how many churches quickly said, my strategy has to be, how do I recreate my Sunday morning experience in your living room, right? Instead of saying, how do I equip these families to actually, become the disciplers, to parents actually spending time with their kids right there in their home. And so we pivoted quickly. We had on the books to do some digital stuff. We pulled that ahead. We created basically everything that we have digitally. We saw about 500 churches grab onto that stuff last year.
Wow.
And so I think the need ramped up. Obviously, people stuck at home. And then obviously a lot of the stresses and tensions of being at home, right? People are working at home and they're schooling at home. And so there's a lot of stresses. We tried to go after very easy things. And I think that's something for churches to consider is how do we give our families bite-sized, easy steps to take, not overwhelm them with too much. And so we saw that play out last year. We saw a lot of churches grab onto those, which said, hey, there was a need for it. And I think going forward, it's just going to continue. I think things are going to look different going forward. I don't know we're ever going to get back to fully where we were before.
I think our new normal will be different than it was. Things are in a different perspective now after spending so much time at home, and hopefully after parents being equipped with some of those things. Let's talk for just a second to that church leader who says, okay, I think HomePointe is for us. I want to get involved. It's something that we would love to partner with you. What are their first steps? We love to give people something to practically apply after listening. So what are their first steps from here?
Hey, the first step is sign up for D6 next year. Because we'll be here.
That's right. Come back.
So make sure you sign up for D6 next year. But hey, after you do that, go to our website, drivefaithhome.com, and there's two things there you want to check out. One is we have a Drive Faith Home University We have all kinds of videos on there that coach you as the church leader on these strategies and these tools, and how you can either leverage our stuff, or quite frankly, you can create your own. Either one. So that's one thing. You can watch those videos. The second is, you'll also find on our website, we do some webinars and some coaching calls, and we would love to talk about the specifics at your church, and then how you can either, again, customize and use the tools that we create, or we can just talk you through, hey, what are those tools, and how you can implement those kinds of strategies at your church as well.
Excellent. So be sure to check out that website and everything that Tim Goodyear and his team have developed. Tim, thank you again so much for sharing with us today. We appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.
Splink is a simple way to help families in your church link together spiritually. It comes as a free weekly email with ideas that parents can use to have fun, make memories, and talk with their kids. Those teachable moments give moms and dads opportunity to share spiritual truths and life lessons. And no matter how busy life is, there's always time to Splink. Share d6family.com with the parents in your ministry so they can sign up today to start receiving free weekly Splink.
Okay, we've heard from Tim, and Marianne, you're right. Tons and tons of notes here, and those tangible areas. Now, let me speak, and I don't want to speak for Josh here, but I think the guys in the guy world, we crave tools. Now, we will critique our wives for spending money here or there, but then when we go out and buy tools, we don't think anything of it. We want the very best tool. That tangible item helps us accomplish so much. So in ministry, what's a tool that you've seen that you've put in the hands of parents in your church that you saw, hey, that woke that guy up, or that woke that mom up? That really made all the difference. Have you seen that?
I think a couple things. Splink, which is a free resource that D6 Family, you can access on the D6 Family app. And guys, let me just tell you, if you want discipleship in the palm of your hands, literally, the D6 Family app is a great way to access tons of free resources to help be spiritual matchmakers with families. But as a ministry leader, could I also speak to, I'm a ministry leader too, and I work for D6 Family, but I'm passionate about D6 Plus. That's exactly why it exists, is there are resources that can help meet parent pain points to start the discipleship conversation, kind of along the lines of what Tim is talking about with HomePointe. We just want to, and what I love that he said, Ron, is make these simple and set attainable goals. And that is what I love about D6 Plus too, is it's a simple breadcrumb to start the conversation.
That's right.
Really, HomePointe and D6 Plus can work together. It's kind of interesting.
I love the fact that he said you're challenging parents to normal interactive activities. That was my favorite line there at the end. Yeah. And that's what we're looking at. But the normal doesn't happen without placing new rhythms and routines and or tools into their hands. Josh, your thoughts?
Well, I love the way that he encouraged, it doesn't have to be a complete shift in everything all at once, for a church's vision, that this can align with the existing vision. And he used the term, weave it into what you are already doing. And I think that is, it kind of puts some pastors at ease when you start to talk about family ministry, because one of the things that I did, I don't want to blow too much winded your sails, Ron, but I do at the same time, because you had this vision for D6 so many years ago. And when we listen to these podcasts and we hear people like Tim come and share what, you are not alone in what you are doing. There are more people coming along and realizing we have to empower parents. We have to connect the church and home through generational discipleship. And other people are just trying to create more tools and give people options to be able to do this. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
No, I think you're right, Josh. I think, we enjoy being able to promote tools that we at Randall House and D6 Family Ministry have put into the hands of churches and homes. But this podcast is about bringing together so many different ministries outside of D6, outside of Randall House, who we're all trying to do the same thing. And there's room in this pathway for all of us because we all bring a unique approach. So I'm so excited about that. and look forward to sharing more and more guests with our team and the listeners in the future. And in fact, we're going to interview a pastor next week, and we're going to talk through how he is doing exactly the same thing, yet another approach to jumping into that lane, helping and assisting parents in some pretty powerful ways. You'll not want to miss the interview with Mike Trimble, a pastor in Detroit, pastor of a large church who has such a creative angle. I'm often embarrassed by how he takes tools that have already been released by us and other people and uses them in ways we've never thought about. And he's going to share that with you next week. So until then, we're going to be praying for you and praying that you find connecting points. And as Tim said, you're just wanting to normalize that interactive activities for your parents. So we're going to be praying for you to see those opportunities this week.
You've been listening to the D6 Podcast. You can learn more about D6 at d6family.com.